Henri Cartier-Bresson back in the 60s at some point said there's too many pictures in the world. And that was before digital technology, before the internet. Even then, there was too many pictures in the world. Too many distractions.
The heydays of photojournalism are over, and you can become rich in photojournalism just getting assignments.
The traditional ways of photojournalism that someone like Sir Don McCullin, when he was in his heyday, would be part of, that's completely gone now. Everyone's got a phone, everyone's taking pictures, everyone sees themselves as a photographer now.
If you look in magazines, where are those thoughtful, in-depth stories? There are fewer and fewer and fewer of them. And this is it's really something of concern.
To make a worthwhile living out of it, you've got to think of different ways of financing yourself. So you might do some commercial work to enable you to go off and photograph that refugee crisis for a month or so.
I understand it's a tough time for a lot of photographers, especially photographers working at newspapers, but it's also a very positive time for photojournalism.
As many people of my generation, I think I watched War Photographer, the documentary about James Nachtwey, that really changed my life. Inspired me to go down a similar path and pursue a similar career.
If you ask photojournalists, they will all tell you that they want to make a change, they want to make a difference.
I wanted to take pictures that people could relate to immediately and have an impact straight away.
Of course it's important to give imagery to history in some way. I mean, I think that's why people like me, who have been working in this for a very long time, that's why we are passionate about it, of course.
When you see the new generation of visual storytellers that are coming, they are thinking in a different way. They are not that locked in on only photography. I think if you're open-minded as a young person and want to do visual storytelling, I think you have a really bright future.
Photography has evolved from being a way of documenting the world to a way of communicating.
You have to do more thoughtful stories, they've got to be more nuanced. In some ways it's become a cliche, the style of documentary. It's very important to be trying to push it on and find original ways of talking about subjects that will engage people.
Social media is going to be way, way, way more important than it is now. If you have a lot of followers on Instagram, if you have a lot of followers on Facebook, you don't even need a publication anymore because you're publishing already. Some photographers with a lot of followers have more followers than the publication they're shooting for. They're an entity, they're their own publication company, and I think that's also the way it's going.
Well, I think there's a pretty strong ethos among photographers, documentary photographers, photojournalists, to be responsible. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing because there's a certain drive in us that makes us want to tell other people's stories.
Whatever you want to do now with documentary photography, you have in some way to give added value to the mistrust, something that challenges the mistrust. Not just think that because you're out there and because you're photographing that, that people will actually trust you.
We live in this sort of culture as well that, I think most intelligent people are worried that things have dumbed down considerably, that people's attention spans are shorter and shorter and shorter. And this is true. But when you do something really good, and maybe slower, it actually stands out now because everything else is so throwaway. Photography used to be the way people learnt about the world, even through news. In a way, that's changed. Now, people get this sort of constant avalanche of stuff. Even just iPhone pictures, citizen journalism. So actually, thoughtful, intelligent documentary photography, photojournalism, whatever you want to call it, has become more important.
A few of my images went viral over the years. A family from Iraq that arrived on a rubber dinghy from Turkey to one of the Greek islands. Still traumatized father was holding his family in his arms. I was there to experience that, and it was really like touching moment. The emotions that you saw there were so overwhelming that they just engulfed me as well. But what was even more touching for me was to see when other people reacted to that image. And one of these moments in my career where I thought, okay, this really has an impact. I'm like, this makes sense what I do. This is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is the reason why I took that career in the first place.
Even those of us who are working on issues that are socially engaging, it's hard to find an audience, and I think part of it is too many distractions. So the fact that no one's listening doesn't mean you stop. In fact, the opposite is true. The fact that no one's listening means you have to do more, and you never stop.
I think my biggest advice to upcoming photographers would be keep going and keep going and keep going and just keep going. What it takes to become a photojournalist is not necessarily taking good pictures.
You cannot only be a visual person any longer. You have to master text, you have to master editing, which many photographers did not master before, and you absolutely need to pitch. It's really tough thing to do, but it seems like a lot of the new generations coming up, they really master all of this together.
Be yourself, find yourself, and then try to remain yourself. That's very difficult. It's easy to get lost with photography.